All right, good people of the SMT Nation, we are live. 7:03 in the PM Eastern Standard Time. The time of this live stream, it is April 22nd, 2022. I have Moose, I have Dennis. Welcome to the show, gents.
Not good show. It's
Thank
gonna
you
get hot. It's gonna get spicy. Take time.
Hold on, Moose. We can't get too spicy off the rip. We're holding a funeral procession first. May we all come together in the community to lay to rest the monstrosity that is known as T-Mobile. Let's all be silent for a moment as we wait for Moose to come back and hold our prayers.
Please bow your heads down for a moment of silence for the T-Mobile cybersecurity, or whatever
lack thereof.
Right, which I think that's the trouble. That's why we're coming across this issue. You guys just want to lead with it today on the show?
Oh, we have to lead to it. We can't let people wait. We got to get into it right now.
All right.
Go ahead and pull up the article. Fill in the audience what happened today.
All right, so I have the article. Should I do a screen share?
Yes, please.
All right, let's do a screen share. Okay.
Also, while you're doing a screen share, if anybody wants to @ T-Mobile with this on Twitter, then clip them to this moment because they need to see.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed, man.
It's not something we're gonna choose to celebrate. It's gonna be something that we have to put on blast, I suppose.
Yeah. And then
blast.
The thongs are gonna be like, oh well, this and oh well that and blah blah blah. No, man, you got hacked again. That's the facts.
Big shout out to Ram, TJ, David, RF Waves, 7 Lucifer, Tech Guy, Baby Yoda. Welcome to the show. All right, screen share is on. And does this change anything? Nope, that makes it worse. Does this change anything? Maybe this helps. Nope. Okay, so it's going to go like this.
You got it.
Actually, can I just do the screen? All right, whatever. Let's do it. All right, leaked chats show that lapses stole T-Mobile source code. According to stories circulating about the internet, including this one here from Krebs on security.com, TechCrunch, and 9to5 Mac. Members of the Lapsus cybercrime group have logs showing that they did breach T-Mobile multiple times in March, stealing source code for a range of company projects. T-Mobile says that no customer or government information was stolen in the intrusion. Lapsus is an entity that is known for stealing data, demanding ransom in order to not publish or sell the data that they take. Leaked chats indicate the mercenary activity was of little interest to the tyrannical teenage leader of Lapsus, whose obsession with stealing and leaking proprietary computer source code from the world's largest tech companies ultimately led to the group's undoing. So it was a kid. It was a 17-year-old kid that did this.
From the UK.
And then they bragged about it on some Telegram channels, and then, that's how it all got exposed and unfolded.
Sneed, didn't you report on April 13th that T-Mobile tried to buy stolen customer data, but it failed?
Yeah.
Dude, this is just a massive series of events.
Well,
man.
actually, you know what they did, Moose? They hired a third-party company to try to mitigate the damage of that breach.
Oh, my God.
And that backfired because what they did is the company that T-Mobile hired attempted to pay for the data that they stole.
Terrible.
But what ended up happening is I think they ended up keeping it anyways. And lying.
So they bought, this is what happened. They paid for and bought the data, but then that company also went around and then resold the data further.
Right.
Oh, my God.
So trying to do deals with the devil is a losing proposition.
But hold up, there's another article that I found that explains a little bit more. First off, this 17-year-old from the UK, he goes by White, like ultra white. And
his
you
name
mean
is
like Blanco, like straight up the color white?
Yes. And he actually had other plans. He wanted to target FBI and Department of Defense agents. Thankfully, his plan fell through as T-Mobile required White to give additional verification before getting the option to SIM swap with any number of leading government agents. Eventually, White terminated their VPN connection that allowed the group to rummage through the carrier's internal database before eventually running a script to download more than 30,000 source code repositories. And here, I'll link that article. This is from Android Police. Here, you can put it up on screen, Sneed. But focusing on the bigger issue at hand here, okay? Data breaches happen. They happen to everybody in telecom. I have called out the fact that telecom as a holistic picture has horrible security, and it's not just even telecom, it's most of our critical infrastructure. However, T-Mobile has had not one, not two, not three, but 4 security breaches in like 12 months time span. For God's sake, you're on alert. You had the FCC on your behind. You told me you're hiring these security professionals and you let a 17-year-old hack you and get access to source code, which, mind you, this source code was for specific proprietary tools that T-Mobile uses to do a myriad of things, such as managing your account, your billing, and everything else. So now, even though he was stopped from SIM swapping FBI agents, the source code is now on the bigger wide web, and there's going to be better black hat hackers who can now reverse engineer that source code and look for other vulnerabilities, which I know T-Mobile hasn't patched.
Right.
T-Mobile, this is unacceptable for a company of your size, and I don't want to hear any excuses from comments from anybody saying that this is like, oh, T-Mobile wasn't always a big carrier. This does not fly. This is horrific. This deserves to be flamed for. People should be outraged, actually outraged, because I remember when we did a vote and most people were like they didn't care.
Yep.
Like, this is not good. Because
I want to give a big shout out to Steven Smith really quick. Thank you for the super chat. We appreciate the donation and support, and thank you again for all that you do in supporting the channel.
Because it goes one step further, by the way, Sneed Man. T-Mobile, some of those tools could have very well been the same tools that also are used to interact with other carriers. So that also causes other issues now that need to be patched as well.
Yep. That's 100% correct. It's not just T-Mobile. Keep in mind, right, on the T-Mobile network, you're able to see MVNO data to an extent. You're able to see what phone numbers of those MVNOs are on there, and that could leak as well. So, again, I'm going to say this as composed as I can, okay? Because I'm honestly very terrified that people don't get it by now. Leave the thong, leave the damn hilo dental, like we've talked about in the previous podcast. You got to leave them. Please go anywhere else. Do not endanger yourself and expose yourself more than you already are. Dennis already said this in multiple seasons ago on the podcast. I don't care about, Equifax at this point. I don't care about the data breaches there. Everybody's susceptible to data breaches. But why would you constantly be on the same carrier getting hacked? There's other options, people.
They're just not putting any priority to the protections, the cybersecurity.
It's terrible.
It obviously needs to be revamped. It obviously needs an entirely new system.
Sneed, you're giving them too much credit, man. You're giving them too much credit.
I'm not giving them credit. I just don't understand what it's going to take. It's gotten to the point where people have become apathetic. It's almost like if you're on the T-Mobile service, this is just something to expect. I mean, that's such an awful situation. So when you start feeling apathetic towards cybersecurity, I mean, it's almost like self-deprecating, right? Like what do you have to look forward to if the company that you're spending your dollars with is not protecting your payment information, is not protecting SS numbers, driver's license, date of birth? We've seen all those things get compromised. I mean, this is actually the worst part about this is T-Mobile source code. So that's like internal tools. That's like projects they might be working on. There might be, and I don't know, exactly what they'll have access to, but there could be something that could be trade secrets. So it's bad enough that you didn't care about your customer information. Well, how about this? This is not you not even caring about your own company information. I mean, if these kids knew what they were looking for, what do you think they could have found, Dennis?
Well, it depends on what the specific target was. They could have, for example, looked into what VPN T-Mobile was specifically using for their work from home agents to try to plan out a middleman
And then
attack.
they could have infiltrated their secured stuff.
Yeah,
And they'll
right?
find out that it's Cisco AnyConnect, but go ahead.
Well, they could have looked for something like that in order to plan out a man-in-the-middle type of attack.
Mhm.
And by doing it that way and using, say, different representatives on the front line and their credentials to get in, even if you whack them all on one of the reps, they'll be able to get in with another rep. They could have looked for, if it was like a foreign, if they wanted to sell in to the highest bidder, like a foreign actor, they could have looked for
SIM shop attacks.
You know, well, I was going to say they could have looked for projects as far as 5G deployment and any proprietary tech that T-Mobile was working on. SIM swap attacks is another one.
Crypto, that leads to crypto, basically, right? So, like, let's say somebody that has a lot of crypto on their wallet, they do a SIM swap attack to another phone, right? And then you do a what's it called? The authentication, right? Two-factor authentication to the new SIM, which is on the hacker's device. Boom. You now have the authentication onto the crypto wallet, and then boom, you just got everything stolen.
They could have also looked at how two-factor authentication was being generated, specifically the secret keys for those targeted accounts. There's a lot of things they could have got out of it, man. I mean, dude, this could go an infinite amount of ways, but I want to go back to what you were saying, Sneed, and I want to just say this really clearly and definitively so it cannot be misunderstood. Security is not complicated. What T-Mobile has clearly demonstrated in their actions, if they've made it a calculated, intentional intent to not make it a focus because they're trying to cut corners and save money. There is no other way to put it down, because security is simple. All right. You start off with the mindset that you've already been breached, and then you take the according actions to mitigate, assuming the breach has already occurred, and you beef up your walls essentially to make it more harder for you to be breached. Basically, don't be low-hanging fruit. And that starts all the way down at the frontline worker. How does the frontline worker log into their account? Is two-factor authentication set up? What is the method of two-factor authentication? Is it a one-time, time-based 6-digit code that's being sent using an app? Is it an Ubi key? Great. Work your way up. Are the passwords strong? Who has access to this information? Why do they have access to this information? Do they need access to this information? And you keep working your way up until you have a more secure thing. And you can literally copy and paste what other companies do, like Google, like Microsoft, like Amazon. They're perfect examples of how security is done right. And a lot of their procedures are actually standards within the security industry. It gets talked about in literal college classes. So T-Mobile is really sucking. And I want to clarify too, their mistakes at this point aren't just impacting them. As Moose said, it impacts every single company that works with T-Mobile. So every single MVNO now has the potential to also have vulnerabilities opened up to them when they might have otherwise been doing everything right, all because T-Mobile screwed the pooch.
Horrible chain of events. I mean, we're probably in the last 2 years. What are we at? Like
7
hacks? Seven hacks in 2 years?
7. It's terrible.
It's pretty bad.
There's no excuse.
Yeah, I mean, this one hurts them on a company level more than, say, like the consumer being hurt. I mean, how bad does this impact the customer? Not much directly.
You're wrong, Sneed.
But this is, well, do you think it impacts them directly?
It's not going to happen immediately, but now that source code is out here, mark my words.
Right.
Mark my words. I guarantee you this ends up impacting the customer within the next year.
Yeah. I think down the line it becomes a big issue. But the bottom line is this is habitual. You know what I mean by habitual, guys? Like this is perpetual. This continues to plague T-Mobile, and I think at some point, are there going to be customers that are throwing in the towel? And do you guys think people would really leave the company?
Yes.
over this? Over these
We
things?
have folks in your comment
'Cause we did the
section
poll,
in
Moose, we did the poll, remember? There were 21% of people after the last hack. 21% in that poll, and it was like the option was who don't care about the hack. I'm not doesn't impact anything. 21%, so that's 1 in 5 people literally apathetic.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Sneak, can I say something? I know that vote looked bad, but the fact of the matter is the real decision makers, the ones that have the most buying power, are businesses and large scale corporations. And I guarantee you that this kind of thing causes those large scale corporations to basically move their accounts over to other providers if they were using
100%.
T-Mobile.
100%. Like, for example, that Alaska Airlines deal that they did is now in jeopardy because, dude, airline is big time. You can't jeopardize an airline security, you know? Like small cities and departments, fire departments, police departments, medical, all that. You get one phone that is pulled off of that account and is now malicious. Come on, man. Imagine you could probably get access to anything in the system because of the same two-factor authentication is tied to that CTN, customer telephone number.
And the thing is, too, once an MDN is lost, it's really hard to get it back.
No version of this that ends well, huh, Dennis?
There is no version of this that ends well. The only hope, and I'm sorry for being socialist, Dennis, here, but I really feel like this is the only way to fix it at this point. The only hope is that we see government legislation mandating certain minimums for all companies in the U.S. to follow when it comes to security. I think that's the only hope.
I think Dennis is right. There has to be a policy. There has to be a protocol. It has to be enforceable, regulated, enforced to the point where there are fines, there are penalties, and there has to be teeth to it. You know, like anybody can say anything, but there must be teeth. There must be bite, not just bark.
I mean, if I had my way, the ultimate punishment would be if you fail to comply after, like, say, a 3-strike policy, you legitimately lose the right to do business in the country and all your assets get seized.
See, here's the thing, Dennis. Here's the thing. If you follow the policy, if you follow the procedures, and you invest in protections, and you still get hacked, I mean, who's going to be mad? But we're clearly seeing a trend of negligence, right?
Agreed.
That's the concern, because when companies aren't trying, I think that's when consumers have a right to be mad. If there's some really intelligent hack that happens getting through protections and firewalls and measures, you put your hands up and say the hackers won this time.
Sneed, you mentioned, actually, Dennis, you mentioned something pretty critical. If they have the source code, they can reverse engineer any patch to the security network, and this will continue going forever until they do a completely from the ground up new security. It's over.
Do you guys think they have an adequate cybersecurity team? Do they have adequate dollars pushed
Absolutely
towards
not
cybersecurity?
They're probably overworked, very few people, and they're all contractors, and you know which country they come from.
Well, hold on.
Really?
Hold on. I want to back pause for a second. I love being angry at T-Mobile, but I want to emphasize something. No private company in the U.S. has adequate cybersecurity. Not AT&T, not Verizon, not T-Mobile. All telecom companies, in fact, most companies in the U.S. are lacking because it's not been a priority. And for some reason, the old heads in suits have not realized that we live in a new era. There is many more enemies at our doors than ever before. It's not just foreign entities that want to mess with us. It's anybody with a computer that can mess with you. And all of this can happen without them ever being physically within your presence. And it's something that's always ignored. IT is always one of the lowest funded parts of most businesses. And legislation has been lacking when it comes to combating these security concerns, which is why companies like T-Mobile are able to get away with what's happening. Now, I think T-Mobile is the most prominent example of this at hand because out of the big three at the moment, their procedures have been the worst.
Yeah, it's extremely disappointing, guys, that we're having to talk about this again. Like
It's like every 3-4 months at this
I
point.
am very disappointed in this, man. Like this never stops.
Like, should I actually create a playlist, T-Mobile hack?
You should.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, there could be like there's playlists like for 5G. I have playlists for all types of stuff. Verizon, AT&T.
Yeah.
Like, we could literally do a T-Mobile hacked playlist.
Yeah.
And there would be probably somewhere in the neighborhood of almost a dozen incidents. Like, if we go back to maybe 2016, which is insane.
Sneed,
That's
you'd
absurd.
probably have 20 hacks if you go back to 2015 at least.
You think so?
Absolutely.
Wow, man. I mean, I could just call it like hacks and data breaches, and I could put, you know, all the carriers in there, but it's going to be dominated by T-Mobile, though.
Also, Sneed, can I point out something that's also especially bad with T-Mobile? Don't forget, it's their own employees as well that are actually selling information. There's been numerous reported instances of bad actors paying Joe Schmo $20 per SIM swap for them or whatever. So it's a whole company-wide culture-wide issue within the company.
And it's, I don't know, did they just fall out of favor? Are these people just trying to get even or something? Are they mad about the way things played out with their employment?
I mean,
I don't know.
it's probably a mixture of things. It's probably how they're treated, what they're getting paid, lots of things. I mean, I'll put it this way. I want to be clear here when I say this. I am not justifying this behavior at all, but putting myself in someone's shoes, if I'm living paycheck to paycheck, you know, I'm just one sick day away from, you know, going homeless. People that are desperate think differently and are willing to do more things than they wouldn't otherwise be willing to do.
Or we can also see it like this, where the people that are leaking this information are essentially whistleblowers. That they know that the security is not adequate, and look how easily they got hacked. You know, it's crazy, man. Honestly, like, this is just insanity at its purest definition, right, Sneed?
I mean, the thing that really irks me about this one specifically is that there's nothing that we as consumers can do to really make ourselves harder. I saw Tech Guy comment about how he changed all his passwords, which props to you for using a password manager. But, you know, no amount of password managers and two-factor authentication can help us if the underlying system is broken. And that's the problem. Like, the fact that an employee has the ability to bypass my 2FA and make changes on my account by just simply like entering their employee credentials is mind-boggling. I understand why it exists, because Moose, I know you're going to talk about that one elderly grandma who forgets her password or whatever, but it can't exist. Not today. There has to be hard rules that stop employees from having control to make modifications without the consumer's consent and approval.
Bro, some people are commenting in the video that they're shocked that T-Mobile's still in business. Don't you think that's a little extreme?
I mean, I told you, if I had my way, I would not allow a company like T-Mobile to operate. I would seize their assets and put it up for sale for a different company to operate and run the wireless provider, or I'd split their assets amongst AT&T and Verizon. To me,
that would be super socialist, Dennis, right?
I'm just saying, if I had my way, if I was dictator Dennis for a day, if I had a company this incompetent with what I would consider infrastructure to be core to the nation's security, and they couldn't handle the job, I wouldn't let them continue to operate. I would find new leadership.
All right, guys. We did a pretty good job, pretty thorough, kind of analyzing that and summarizing it. Shall we approach the next item?
Yeah, unless Moose has any final thoughts.
Well, I wanted to wait till I know Tyrone is going to be coming on here very shortly, but he mentioned in his video regarding the hack that he's canceling. That's a first, man. I never have heard somebody straight up say they're going to cancel straight up. Because of the hack.
Does Tyrone have a single line?
Yeah, I think he has a couple lines.
Welcome to the show, Tyrone.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
Tyrone, I want you to address the situation of the T-Mobile hack in your opinion.
Yeah, it seems like it's another attempt to get in, because hackers are aware that others have been able to hack T-Mobile, so of course they're going to try it again. And from what I've been reading and hearing is, I guess, getting that source code allows you to kind of get a better feel of how to attack them even better in the future. Now, I guess some people have told me that the hackers lost that code or whatever for all the companies, but it doesn't mean that they won't try it again, and I'm sure they will. So it's just crazy, man.
What in your video you mentioned, Tyrone, that if this happened again after the 6th time, and now this being the 7th time, are you now going to end up terminating services with T-Mobile?
No, I was saying if my personal data was lost once again, I would be done with T-Mobile. I would end my everything with T-Mobile. Okay. That would be it. I would not move forward with them.
Yeah. So if it happens again, you're saying because of this situation that has been discovered by these teenage hackers, which is unbelievable, right? That teenagers are hacking T-Mobile.
Yeah. Correct. Like tomorrow, if somebody came out and said, okay, personal data was lost, I'd be gone. See ya.
Oh, damn.
Yep.
We got a super chat, Sneed, from Gellert Entertainment.
Big shout out to Gel. Thanks, man. T-Mobile's old slogan, the uncarrier. T-Mobile's new slogan, the easiest to hack.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, people are going to put it on thick, man.
Yeah.
I think at this point, people are looking at T-Mobile as low-hanging fruit. They're the butt of the joke. I mean, it's just one incident after the other. Tyrone, I estimated that there was somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 or so hacks in the last 2 years.
Yep.
That I don't know if, I mean, me and you pretty much cover the same things, and we do a lot of the, the hacks. And I was thinking about making a playlist and just calling it Hacks and Breaches. And, it would probably have a couple of Verizon moments and it would have a couple of AT&T moments, but it would be dominated by T-Mobile.
Yep. We get one a quarter from T-Mobile. Shit.
Yeah, it really does feel like that.
This one is actually out of all the hacks, even I would argue this one's honestly the worst for two main reasons. One being because it was a 17-year-old that did it, and two being because it's the source material. Like I said, there's a lot of ways this can go. Like, literally, they might use the source material to find out what timekeeping card they have to figure out employee schedules, and that gives them an advantage when they try to plan out the next attack. They could plan it out in such a way when security team or important personnel are offline. Like, there's so many ways it can go.
Right. So here's the question. Is there anything anything else we need to talk about here? Or should we move on to the next topic?
I think we're good. I think we're good. I mean, we spent like 30 minutes on it. We covered it.
Okay, perfect. All righty. Now.
What do you want to do? The AT&T reorg, or do you want to do the Verizon quarter?
Well, I already have a lot of notes on the Verizon, but I want to just get out the way the bombs that were dropped today. Yeah.
Okay, let's do it, man. Let's do it. All right. There is a complete reorganization of the AT&T company. It's completely overhauling the structure of how the company will be conducting business. The legacy executive team had, I'd say, at least a handful of individuals that are retiring and leaving the company. And then besides just vacating their positions actually changed. So now we have a chief operational officer, right? A COO, which, I mean, he's going to oversee the company. The big boss is John Stankey, the CEO of AT&T. But looking at a COO, I mean, this guy's going to have his hands in everything. Final say, final authority is through, what is his name? Why is it slipping my mind right now? Tyrone, what's the guy's name?
Jeff McElfresh.
Jeff McElfresh. There we go. Okay. I don't know why I was blanking. So, and in my estimation, I think he's the right guy for the job. I think he's really good. I think he's done a great job with, the network up to this point. I mean, he's a guy of execution, so I like him. So I think he's the right person for this. Now, his position technically didn't exist previously. The company had a bunch of CEOs. So now it's different. So right off the rip, executive structure is modified. And then not only that, they shifted job duties and responsibilities around so that certain people within certain positions have multiple roles and multiple responsibilities and duties. And I think that's good. This allows AT&T to consolidate leadership, and then they're all very close. So one hand washing the other, they're in close contact. They get to trim the fat a little bit. I mean, having like 7 executives, each of them making like $20+ million a year is absurd. There was so much salary being paid, bonuses. Who else knows what, goes into these contracts? But they lean that out. They're probably going to fire some people and do some layoffs in May. And then, they're just going to become a more effectively smooth operating lean company, which is something that Verizon had to do too. And it's something that T-Mobile had to do too with the merger. This is just corporate and collectively paying down the debt, and then now focused on wireless, 5G, and fiber. I think makes them a better company. I think what we have to look at here is does John Stankey and these, like, the team, did they put the right people in place to make the transition properly and execute? What do you guys think? You think the right people are in place?
I'm going to be honest. I don't know enough about the people to have a really good opinion.
Okay. Tyrone, you know the names pretty well.
Yeah, I mean,
some of them are just, what would you call it? Would you say that they got promoted?
Yeah, some got shuffled around, right? Some have just been given like new assignments. Some actually got a promotion, to a higher up position. I just said this in my video too. I think if we are right in our prediction that Jeff is going to fill Stanky's spot when Stanky leaves, I think the signs are there. We should, moving forward, we should see Jeff become the face of the company, if that makes sense. So
See him more, speaking more at the conferences.
Correct. The media, the CNBC interviews, maybe even the earnings calls. We might see him be the face of the company moving forward, to kind of, ease up the transition a bit. But yeah, everybody else has been a part of AT&T for a while, and I think like I said, I think it's a step in the right direction. But we will have to see if these are the right pieces that Stanky's putting in place to move the company in the right direction.
Yeah, so Thaddeus Arroyo has been moved to CEO of the consumer business. From the CEO of consumer business to Chief Strategy and Development Officer. Now, he's a long time standing executive at AT&T, so he's been there. I don't know. I'm looking around for some of these other names. There was obviously Jeff McElfresh. Then we had Arroyo, and then I think there were a couple other names who are going to be doing some stuff beneath that hierarchy. I think the bigger issue is when I look at, say, for example, Jeremy Legg, right? Who is the CTO? Kellen Kenny, Chief Marketing and Growth. They're giving those duties to people who have a lot on the line here, because in my estimation, AT&T is competitive with pricing. Their network is good. It is as competitive as the rest of them. Fiber, all these things. And I don't think people know, based on the advertisement, based on the marketing techniques and strategies, everybody doesn't know what AT&T really offers unless they go digging and looking for it. They don't know it. And then you have a company like T-Mobile, which thrives, absolutely thrives in marketing. Everybody sees the T-Mobile commercials. They know the color, they know the business model, they know the 5G, they know the more bars and more places, all these slogans. They know it all. And that is from effective marketing. I think Kellen has the tough job as the chief marketing and growth officer, because that's what the company is trying to do right now, right? It's grow. And that's what Stanky kept talking about, growing and streamlining business, and and being leaner, and just working in close proximity with one another. It seems to me like the departments were very detached before. What would you say, Tyrone?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think they're trying to streamline the company itself. They know they have to do that to the public, but they're trying to get everybody on the same sheet of music, and it's easier to do that when you have less people, right? I mean, they had so many different people to report to internally. It was ridiculous. Now you go straight to the guy. You no longer have a middleman, and you tell him what you want. So in this CMO role, Chief Marketing Officer, it's not hard. The brand is strong. Everybody knows AT&T, and they have the perception. So now all you got to do is let people know, hey, look, this is what we got. This is what we offer, and yeah, you got to be loud. I mean, I know.
Hey, check your audio real quick.
Can you hear me?
There we go.
Yeah, now we can hear you better.
Yeah. So, like I said, you have to be loud. I understand that AT&T considers themselves to be premium, and we have this and that, and we're the best. You just have to be loud. T-Mobile's loud all the time, like Sneed just mentioned. Just be loud,
and it works for
and
them. It works for them,
It
Tyrone.
does. So it's not hard. The brand is there. Everybody knows AT&T. It's been around for decades. Just let people know what you're offering. That's it.
Yeah, and I think some of that comes with an advertising revamp. I think, they were talking about rebranding and stuff. I think this is where that happens. I think she's going to be the one that's responsible for the whole marketing approach. And if they do a rebrand, how do they approach it?
Well, I can comment on marketing for a moment. If I was AT&T, this would be what I would personally do. For all my TV customers that have DirecTV or my AT&T Uverse TV or whatever, I would start inserting ads specifically in those given areas with targeted marketing, because that's something that can be done now with technology. So give targeted ads in the specific areas where you're marketing your different products, including the mobile. As far as wasting money on the flyers, I don't find that to necessarily be the most effective way to market. But if it's a place where there's not a large penetration for your other products, and that's really one of the only real means that you can communicate with the customer, do it then. And then also start utilizing more of the free marketing strategy. So your social media posts like Twitter, like Facebook. Heck, get into gaming. Gaming's a massive way to market your internet. For example, this is a little unrelated as far as telecom goes, but I remember Burger King specifically did a really interesting marketing campaign where they would donate to Twitch streamers while they were live streaming like $20, and they would read like a comment about Burger King and stuff like that on an actual Burger King channel, and they would do it across multiple Twitch streamers. And I know for a fact what they ended up spending to get those people to read it was much less than actually getting a spot on TV. And they actually took the recorded responses and reactions from those Twitch streamers and turned it into a YouTube video that later got shared as well, just to promote Burger King. So AT&T could probably copy and paste that same strategy as a low-cost way to market and reach more people that would care about, say, their 5 gig internet, for example.
Their message needs to be clear. It needs to be deliberate. It needs to have intent. It needs to be continuous. And people just, they have to, it has to be inevitable. It has to slap people in the face everywhere they go, all times of the day, whether it's sports or entertainment or whatever. I would argue that Verizon is even doing a better job than AT&T when it comes to marketing. Like, everybody is seeing the 5G ultra wideband commercials, the 5G UW branding, the ultra, the engineering commercials. Even Verizon has made it very clear. We only get an occasional commercial of like Matt Stafford in the AT&T store with Lily. It's ineffective.
Yeah.
It's not resonating with anyone. And I don't know who's in charge of making those commercials or who directs them or whatever the plan is. I'm not a fan of it. I think AT&T offers good service in a lot of places, and it's fiber and it's 5G and it's all these other things, and you just have to execute that. I look, truth be told, T-Mobile does not offer a better product than AT&T. I don't see how the fiber product isn't better, right, than 99% of most home internet providers. Like, that's the truth. Their fiber product is superior to most. Even other fiber providers, AT&T could be better than them. So to argue that the T-Mobile home internet is better than AT&T fiber is not really valid. So right away, when they do offer something, it's great. If it's available to you, right, let people know. They're converting, and they can do it at a faster pace if they just let people know that they're doing it.
Hey, Sneed, do you want to know what a really effective marketing strategy is? Big Cable does this. So every time it's back, it's back to school year for college campuses, anytime there's a change up in semesters, you'll see the local ISP in that area have a big old booth giving out like free, in the case of college students, pizza cutters that are also like bottle openers, lanyards for like your keys and stuff, and all kinds of other junk like that. And they also have like helpful little things of how to sign up for your campus internet or how to get internet off at your apartments when they're on campus on like the first day of school for like a new semester. And that's a super effective way to do things. It's also pretty cheap. Because now you got in person, you're making your product known. You can have products on display for people to interact with, and you're making sure to give the instructions so that everybody gets connected and set up for it so you get paid. Have you seen that before? Have you ever seen that at like your school, Sneed?
Not exactly. Actually, you know what we got to do, Dennis? Because it's 7:45. We got to move on to the last thing. We got to cover this Verizon thing. All right, let's do the Verizon numbers. Moose, you got some numbers for me?
Oh man, I'm still shocked that the analysts were so spot on, Sneed. That again, if the business side did not gain some of those negatives back on the consumer side for Verizon, we would have been seeing possibly a Hans Vestberg departure today. No joke. No joke.
Moose, we were speaking, earlier in a conference call and with Tyrone. I legit think that the fixed wireless ads probably bought Hans at least
6 more months,
a couple more quarters, And the reason I say that is because if they're adding 200,000 subs right now, and the C-band only launched in January, and it really is just now starting to catch, right? They're starting to fulfill orders.
Yeah.
I mean, next quarter is going to be huge. Right. They're going to probably add 350,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
And then they're probably going to have a couple of those quarters, and then all they have to do is start building out the next set of blocks B and C. They open it up beyond the top 46, the top 70, 80 PAs. I mean, then you could start selling it to people in rural America who actually really need it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, those are slam dunks. You're taking DSL, you're taking satellite.
That's right.
And so those numbers, I mean, he can hang his head on that. He could say, look what I did. We literally just added 1 million subscribers of fixed wireless access within a year, one calendar year, not even, right? It's
Yeah.
like you don't even count January. It's like February to December. I think they're going to hit 1 million this year.
And I think they do it. I think they do it faster than T-Mobile because they have no cutoffs. They have no limits. Like as many people as can get it will be able to sign up with Verizon.
This is interesting you mentioned that, right? As many people want Verizon will get it,
Yep.
right? Why do you think that is? Because they have capacity constraints too, right? They have capacity constraints, Verizon.
Well, it's just I think they're building that density, man. They're getting really, really, really dense. I mean, they're not putting fiber in your house, but they will put a millimeter wave small cell in your front yard.
Yeah. It's interesting because do you guys have the specific numbers? Because I don't have up the sheet. I can get it right now. Hold on.
Yeah, I got
Okay,
some
okay.
numbers.
I think they lost 50,000 net adds total, if I remember. Is that correct, Sneed?
I'm pulling up the numbers right now. I took some notes.
If I remember, I'm going to try to ballpark based off memory. I think they lost 50,000 net adds, had a 338,000 total net adds for internet subscribers, with like 280,000 of it being fixed wireless, the rest being fiber or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong.
The net loss on consumer wireless was 36,000.
Damn.
All right, I got them right here. We have wireless subscribers. Consumer losses was minus 36,000. For fixed wireless, we had plus 194.
Not bad.
37,000 were wireline. 112,000 were 5G home. 82,000 were 5G business.
Damn.
Yep. So this was a big quarter for them for fixed wireless and wireline too. They added some 37,000, but that's actually half of what they did year over year. So 1 year ago today, they were reporting like 67,000 on fiber.
Honestly, I'll make a quick prediction here, Sneed. Just a quick hot take. I think this year and next, they're going to add more fixed wireless customers than consumer wireless customers.
What's their what? Wait a minute. You said in Fios versus fixed wireless?
No, he's saying
Go ahead,
he's saying that for fixed wireless home internet access, they'll add more additions to that than normal consumer wireless mobile ads over the course of the year.
Damn.
On the year?
Correct.
On the year, you mean?
Oh,
No,
damn.
every quarter, I think they will gain more fixed
All right,
wireless.
so let's see if that's legitimate, because I think Tyrone might be onto something. All right, if they are adding 300 to 350,000 subscriber average for the Verizon 5G home, you're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.3 to 1.5 million a year, right?
Yep.
We have been seeing Verizon's growth maxing out at like 1 million a year. Tyrone is not wrong for predicting this. You know, he has a valid case.
I actually agree with Tyrone, just throwing it out there.
Like, it could happen as early as next year.
This is
maybe
wild.
Not this year, but I think next year it's a slam dunk.
This is wild. They're going to be adding more fixed wireless, which is a cheaper ARPU product than their.
There is one thing that could throw a wrench into the woodwork here, and that's if people start to migrate for Verizon Wireless to get the discount and to get the Disney bundle or whatever the combo is. Like, somebody's like, oh wow, I can get 5G home for $25 a month as long as I switch over to wireless, plus I'll get the Disney bundle or whatever else Verizon is giving them. They might say it's worth it. Maybe they convert, because look, T-Mobile is converting customers right now that didn't have wireless with them, but because they're giving them the home internet, they're converting. It opens the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it ends up being a push. I don't know, but I think Tyrone's right.
It could be a similar story, like you said, about the AT&T fiber 25% off. Same situation with Verizon Home Internet with the discount to wireless. Or sorry, the discount to the home internet if you have the wireless. There it is.
Yeah, I wouldn't call that a spicy take. I'd say that's good math, Tyrone.
Did you? There was a couple of analysts that asked a question on the call, and one of them really surprised me. Hans neglected to answer it straight up. He said, I think it was it was Craig Moffett. It was Moffett, dude. He said possibly one of the best questions from the call, and he said, what's your strategy from basically gaining more customers? Because it seems like traditionally in this wireless space, you have to gain customers in order to keep the momentums, or it's like, I'm paraphrasing, but oh man, Craig Moffat's question was so spot on. Like, it was basically, how are you going to stop the bleeding and how are you going to get more customers? And Hans did not answer the question.
Yeah, Craig pretty much said, you're not traditionally growing the wireless subs. You're not really growing the ARPU. What are you going to grow in 5G? What use case are you going to present that's going to, besides fixed wireless access? And they really couldn't give him a straightforward answer.
Yeah, that's why one of the reasons, guys, their stock dipped dramatically today. Yes, everybody else was down, but Verizon's was significantly worse off today.
Well, I just want to point out a cold hard fact. The concept of this infinite growth that companies have as like a mantra in capitalism. There is no infinite growth. At some point, there is a stagnant amount, and you just have to kind of like look at minimizing your costs to increase the ARPU. Like right now, it's fixed wireless, but at some point that also peters out. Wireless is already super saturated. I don't see any big swings happening unless like massive screw ups happen between Verizon, T-Mobile, and AT&T. And as far as 5G use cases, the 5G isn't there yet, so the 5G use cases to market additional opportunities for revenue also don't exist yet. I think it's going to be a while until we see some of those niche 5G things make their way into possible ways to monetize, because honestly, C-band's still in its infancy. Even N41 is kind of lacking as far as actual square miles covered, and AT&T, as people put in the comments, doesn't have any mid-band 5G to speak of at the moment.
Yeah.
Hey, let's give prepaid a shout out. Do you guys want to move over to the prepaid side and discuss this?
Sure.
Yeah. Verizon is the ARPU focused carrier, right? Like, I mean, all the carriers care about ARPU, but that's like all they have. They don't have growth. So that's the only thing they hang their hat on. Verizon's ARPU on prepaid went from $38 to $31. They lost 80,000 subs. That is essentially a combination of TracFone, probably decreasing the ARPU, and then also 3G shutdown prospects, phone issues, SIM card issues related to TracFone. There's TracFone losses. That business will need to stabilize, and then they'll have to start really pushing the competitive promotions and rates and trying to convert customers, because TracFone has been losing customers for several quarters, even prior to Verizon looking at the acquisition. So they're like right around 23 or 24 million subscribers on prepaid. I think 21 of them might be TracFone. So that's a huge portion. They didn't really describe too much from the prepaid side, but Tyrone, I know that you've, talked about this a bit, and how Manon says that she wants to compete utilizing the TracFone brands. But it doesn't look that great. It doesn't look like that it's that competitive. I mean, they're losing subs. I mean, what's going on in the market?
Yeah, she was, and this was before this earnings call. She was quoted referencing that she would, if there was pricing pressure in the market, she would use the TracFone brand to compete against that versus the Verizon postpaid brand. And I don't think it's going to work. To kind of piggyback off of what Dennis was saying, he was spot on in saying that the market is saturated, and Verizon saw that early on. So what did they do? They started shifting. Okay, we're going to move everybody to premium. And what happened then? The profits went up, but the growth went down big time. So now what did they do additionally? They bought another competitor that competes against them at lower prices in TracFone. So now that's one less they have to worry about that can pull customers from them, while they signed all these MVNO deals, so they can still get revenue at least from these cable companies moving forward.
And their market share for prepaid went up dramatically. Remember?
Yes. Yep. The market share went up dramatically. And then now there's new business, new MVNOs that are entering the market still in 2022.
Mobile X just did the thing on Twitter that they're ready to go.
They're ready to go. That's more competition into an already saturated market. So there's not much more to pull from. So Verizon's like, we're going to take a back seat.
I think the salvation for Verizon is just going to come from them just focusing on network deployment, and the rest will follow. If Verizon can make themselves the 5G leader, the benefits will come and all problems will be solved. And I think that we just need to kind of ignore these share investors at the moment, because a network doesn't get built in a day, so to speak.
Yeah, but here's the problem, okay? If everybody in the urban core has pretty much the same network-esque, okay? Like very different issues or very different, nuances, right? Just a little bit here, a little bit there. Nobody's going to be paying those prices for Verizon if T-Mobile or AT&T gets the job done. Bottom line. So, however, we go back to the whole security thing, and we go back to like the other stuff that we've talked about on the podcast today, right? And yes, I understand now, like some people might never go to T-Mobile because of the security concerns. However, there's an MVNO, and there's also Spectrum Mobile and Xfinity Mobile. That is a very good alternative if you want Verizon coverage. You pay less and you still get the same coverage. For the average consumer, that's perfect. Right?
I agree with what you're saying on that front, but what I'm more so trying to focus on is there are things that I know don't exist yet that will eventually be able to be monetized. And if Verizon can somehow manage to take the lead, those new opportunities will present themselves, and they can monetize that to achieve some semblance of growth to please stock investors.
Do you think it's going to bring the type of growth that the market is looking for?
I mean, it's hard to say. I'll put it this way. I remember back in college, I did a big paper talking about how LTE literally caused the U.S. economy to gain like $1.2 trillion in GDP or something like that, just from the advent of LTE and America being a market leader with that technology. And I don't think it'd be too crazy to say 5G would do the same in like indirect ways with like different businesses that would sprout up. And if Verizon can pivot themselves to be in such a way where they're the core infrastructure that's needed for those businesses to operate, and they develop some specific network management tools and different feature sets that would enable those businesses to do what they need to do, then yes, I think Verizon can share in that tidal wave. But it's going to depend on them having the infrastructure in place for that to happen. Infrastructure needs to come first before ways to monetize it can come.
Yeah. By the way, there was a question also from another guy from JP Morgan, the JP Morgan guy. And he asked a question about the inflation and how it's impacting Verizon. They obviously pivoted. They did not answer the question directly, and they didn't answer the question if they would or would not raise prices.
Moose, that is a clear indication that they are staying away from it. It's a sensitive topic, and this is something that I think CEO of AT&T, John Stankey, messed up on. I think he was very forward, which I can respect, but he obviously was out of touch with reality. People don't want to hear things like oh, I'm not happy about how fast wages are rising. Like what you mean, bro? You think people are happy about the pricing that they have to pay for fuel or food? Clearly John Stankey doesn't have problems paying for his groceries and gasoline. All right, he actually just gave himself a raise, didn't
Yep.
he? So he's not feeling the room out. You know what I'm saying? People don't want to hear that stuff.
Well,
Clearly Hans saw that misstep from John Stankey's like, I'm not taking
I
it there.
think personally, the reason why they didn't want to say anything is because they're still investigating if they're going to do it or not. That's just how I took it from like the corporate angle. Because by pivoting the question, you obviously are investigating it. Nobody's stupid enough to not investigate it because clearly
Oh, sure. I'm sure those analyst people have intelligence that indicates that this is getting mulled around.
yeah, exactly.
Well, they
So
were
that's why
already the most expensive, Moose. So, like, what justification do they have to actually increase prices again?
What are you going to do? Dennis is right. You're going to charge $105 for a postpaid line, get more?
The MVNOs
Damn.
will like that. The MVNOs will love it.
Yeah, because an MVNO for a similar plan for that experience is going to be half the
Yep.
price.
They'll grow like weeds.
Yeah. I mean, remember this, guys. I think the biggest carrier that is needing to grow the pricing is T-Mobile because they were already low to begin with, and then with this inflation aspect, they're literally any profit that they will get from their plans is evaporated if it's, let's say they have 10% profit or even a little bit more based into it, into that plan. I'm telling you, T-Mobile is probably looking at any way possible to get the FCC to allow them to do a one-time exemption to the situation for the merger, right? The stipulation on the merger, because there's no way they're not thinking about that.
If you look at T-Mobile's standard pricing, it's not that far off from the other carriers. They just throw in like free lines, and that's what essentially makes them cheaper. And then the taxes and fees included help too. But if you look at their Magenta MAX for one line, it's up there in price. If they go any higher, then people are going to probably be like, well, I might as well go to AT&T and Verizon if I got to pay this on T-Mobile with go to a better network at that too.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely justifiable.
I agree, Ram. I agree with Ram's statement. If you're already losing customers, how do you justify increasing cost of plans even more? They're already the highest. That's a poison pill.
I love that.
That's a poison pill. I think their churn rates will increase from that type of move.
And then when their churn rates increase, they'll have to raise prices again to make up from lost revenue, and then it's a vicious cycle.
Because they won't decrease pricing and be more competitive to grow.
Verizon just reported 9% increase in profit year over year this quarter.
Yeah, they did.
I mean, why the need to increase prices? I mean, I know the inflation is there, but come on. If you got to take a little bit of a hit, take the hit.
Tyrone, I've said this before, and I'll say it again to emphasize it, but carriers were already making like 97% profit margins on what they were selling. So inflation for them does not matter like at all. It's just a matter of their profit margin going from 97 to like 95. Like, technically speaking, no carrier needs to justify increasing prices, not even T-Mobile. And honestly, if they're so worried about their profit margins, the smarter move would just be cutting down on some of the fat. Like, does Verizon really need to offer a free year subscription to so-and-so service? Does T-Mobile need to offer Apple TV Plus for a year and Paramount Plus for a year? No. That's not the main reason that people pick a network. Yes, cherries on tops are great. Having like a streaming service be free is fine, but you don't need to give like 10 free lines just to show false growth in net ads.
Yeah. And I think Verizon is kind of taking that overboard too. I mean, they're giving you the kitchen sink here. I mean, gaming, music, streaming. I mean, it's like you said, it's
there's only two things that will get Hans Vestberg kicked out of the company, and that would be if he introduced free lines or included taxes and fees. He would literally be escorted from Verizon premises.
Yeah, but Sneed, if Verizon were to include taxes and fees,
No.
I guarantee you, not
Growth will
only
come
would
back.
they see more growth come back,
Yeah.
but they would probably see a reduction in their churn to boot as well. Because honestly, at that point, yeah, they might be like $5 more expensive than AT&T, but they're giving you infinitely more value. And because tax and fees being included, they actually end up coming out less than being AT&T, and in some circumstances cheaper than T-Mobile when we look at, like, say, Get More versus regular Magenta and what you get for it.
Yeah, and they could advertise it as another perk.
Can we talk about this real quick? The super chat from Lawrence. Thanks, buddy. My girlfriend only pays $120 for her T-Mobile One Plus with HD and 10 gigs of hotspot for 8 lines. Holy
Yeah,
crap.
but T-Mobile still gets to make like $110 in profit off of that.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Yeah.
Well, do you guys think we covered everything? You think we're all set here?
I feel good.
I think we covered it all. I think the Verizon quarter is the fixed wireless is a winner. The FiOS is an afterthought, and they don't grow in Q1s. I wouldn't overreact to the Q1. We'll see if they bounce back Q2, but I'm also expecting a big Q2 for fixed wireless subs. Yeah. T-Mobile is the last one to report. Tyrone, you expecting a big quarter, man?
It's going to be a blowout quarter, man. Yeah, it's
I
going to
agree.
be a blowout.
I agree. You guys agree, Dennis, Moose?
What about the quarter? I'm sorry.
The T-Mobile quarter, they're the last ones to report.
I think it'll be pretty strong.
Yeah. That'd be really strong.
All right, y'all. Let's go ahead and wrap up the show. Thank you guys for coming through. Big shout out to Dennis, Moose, Tyrone from Tech Life.
Hello.
And Yasmin is here, so we thank her for coming by. Let's go ahead and do the hashtags. Hashtag all things. Hashtag Mod Squad. Hashtag Replay Crew. Hashtag Ravioli Gang. Hashtag Save the Bear. Help the Bear. All that good stuff. What we'll do is we'll probably do a Patreon show on Sunday. So we'll see who can swing by. I'll probably have the man himself, the Bearded Dragon, join me. And we'll be discussing some topics, and we'll have a good show. And also have a video upload for you guys tomorrow. And then the Verizon QCI video will be out on Sunday. Dennis, shout out to the best phone plans.
Thank you as always, Sneed, for having me.
Before Yasmin decides that she wants me to put her in a neck crank, let's go ahead and close out the show. Yasmin, say bye to everybody. No, stop. All right. Well, we out this piece. Thanks, Dennis.
Peace.